Guys, I never knew what electricity in a home was until I was 8 years old. I didn't know what indoor plumbing was until I was 10 years old. We don't come from money. I don't know a time that I didn't have a job. I had some good jobs. It was fun.
So, Nelson, we're going to talk about the problem here and what that you've identified in the book. And I think that's a really critical part of the book. So why is the problem so important?
Well, if you don't understand the problem in life, the solution doesn't mean anything. You got to understand. That's why the Old Testament is so important in the Bible, to dramatize and show over a period of time how people keep making the same big old mistakes. And that you got to secede from that sort of thing. Otherwise, you're going to be one of them. And so consider okay, have I ever told y'all my own personal background, childhood and so forth? Have we ever talked about it?
I don't recall.
I'm born in 1931, depth of the Depression. Guys, I never knew what electricity in a home was until I was 8 years old. I didn't know what indoor plumbing was until I was 10 years old. We don't come from money. I don't know a time that I didn't have a job. I had some good jobs. It was fun. So I just wanted to make that clear that I'm not starting from a platform of any kind here that would be significant so forth. This is strictly the power of getting priorities straight and understanding that you have a purpose in life and find out what it is and go do it.
Get to it. Get to work.
Yeah, and that helps you see things that you wouldn't normally see as a result of it.
You shared something with me earlier today about this ties into the problem that, when you have a flashlight and you shine it on the nonsense that's out there in the world, you begin to see it for what it is.
Sure. Now, when you do, the darkness disappears. Light overcomes darkness. First law of thermodynamics: heat goes to cold. Doesn't go the other way. Anytime that you can shed light on something, darkness disappears. And so what we got to learn how to do is identify darkness and shed light on it, because so much out there that needs rectifying, but people have not taken the time to rebut nonsense out there, and as a result, nonsense prevails.
You identify that, I think, by shedding the light on the problem so good in the book. And you really hone in on that the volume of interest is the real problem, not the percentage.
Sure, that is a startling revelation to everybody that I presented this to as I was putting it together down through the years. That look at what's happening. That you keep thinking about rates and so forth and whatever, but what's happening? Do you know that during my father's generation, a 5-year mortgage on a house was common? 5 years. Now, what do we have?
25, 30.
Yeah. And what do we have out of the book, The Big Short? And that crazy idea that everybody deserves a house. There is no such thing. But crazy ideas have an appeal to people for some reason or another. Well, so I just took the little example of an automobile there that today, the first car that Mary and I bought was a 4-year-old Buick, 1948 model. It required 1/3 down in those days. 18 months is the longest period you could have to finance it. What do we have nowadays?
8 years?
Yeah, 0 down. Then you can buy a John Deere zero-turn mower for nothing down and 7 years to pay, and you don't have to pay a thing the first year. Just get hooked right in. And that has become the norm for people today.
And that's the pattern that you're identifying in the book.
All right, and so I pointed out that 95% of the cars traded in today in the USA are not paid for. So that's a continuous process. And I know from the real estate business that typical mortgage only stays on the books 5 years. Several years ago, Grand Rapids, Michigan, doing a seminar, there was a lady expert on mortgages there in the group, and she said at that particular time, that was about 6 years ago now, typical mortgage stays on the books only 2.6 years. So that's worse than what I'm showing you in the book.
All the money of every payment is going towards.
Yeah, and so that you're always at the front end of the mortgage there every time. Hence, you get the results that I graphed there. Well, the last one there is you kind of use your imagination, but that's the interest on the Bank of America card. That's the interest on the boat payments, and one of the essentials of life and stuff like that.
Zero-turn tractors.
Yeah, stuff like that. Might even be country club membership. Who knows? Yeah. But financing is the way things go. See, Coca, you ever read his book?
I haven't, but I know what you've shared in your your book.
opinion, yeah. Yeah, he used to be at Ford and he moved to Chrysler and he says he would never have made that move had he known how bad off Chrysler was. Well, that's kind of interesting to learn that. And the only way he could see out of the mess that they were in was to get a government-backed guarantee for a loan because they couldn't get it on their own. They had to have a government-backed guarantee. Well, how you get one of those? Well, you get your highest paid executives, your highest paid accountants, and your highest paid lawyers, and you go down to the inside the belt line at Washington, D.C. and camp out for a period of time while you're courting lobbyists. And you have spent a ton of money
Greasing the wheels of the...
trying to get the folks Congress to appropriate this loan, or this guarantee, not loan. All right, when they got the government-backed guarantee, finally, they wanted to have a party. We have succeeded. We're in. And ICO could tell them, guys, y'all don't understand something. Apparently, we don't have any money. All we got was a guarantee. We got to go to the banks now and get the money. And what the banks made them do made the other exercise pale in comparison. Now you add up all that attendant cost I talk about, and it exceeded the value. It exceeded the cost of the interest by far over the period of the loan. Cost of acquisition of finance comes high, but that is not recognized out in the marketplace.
Certainly not for people in their personal financial household.
Yeah, but it's probably just as bad in businesses, maybe even worse.
You use being an airplane driver, you use a lot of airplane analogies. You talk about an airplane not being able to fly through a vacuum. It has to go through an environment.
Yeah.
And then you draw, a parallel towards how the average everyday American who doesn't have to be rich to get into the banking business is spending their money in all these different areas, and it's leaking out of their household. And they have a financial environment, a financial condition that they're in. And that learning, you say in the book that learning to control that environment is the most profitable thing that they can do in a lifetime.
Sure.
Talk to me more about creating, flying into a financial headwind and creating a financial tailwind.
So being generous in that example there, you add up all that interest there, it's 34.5 cents out of every dollar. Now, I assumed he was saving 10%, which is not true. We got to allocate that other 5% that I was gracious with to the other graph there.
Right.
All right. And like I say, I've been challenged on validity of my statements there. And every time I've asked somebody, well, do your own third grade arithmetic, go to your situation and tell me what's happening. And I've never had one that didn't say you understated the case. It's worse than what you're depicting. I like to be generous like that. So we have a 4.5 to a 10 ratio. And so I, using the airplane analogy, said you're in Birmingham, Alabama, and you want to go to Chicago, but you have to go through an environment. You can't fly an airplane through a vacuum. It's impossible. Yeah, your airplane can run 100 miles an hour. We just use the 10% and move the decimal one place right. But here comes a high off the left coast. It's centered over western Kansas. The highs turn clockwise in the northern hemisphere, counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere. You have a 345 mile an hour headwind and a 100 mile an hour airplane flying into it. Net result, you're going to Cuba at 245 miles an hour. But the airspeed says 100 miles an hour. Compared to what? Well, to get to Chicago in this circumstance, it's the smartest thing you can do is land. Get on the ground. Have some patience. Let the air mass move on. It will. They all do. There's never an exception. Now it's centered over Indianapolis. It's dead calm in the center of that circle. Get in that same 100 mile an hour airplane and you will cover the ground at 100 miles an hour. Well, the arrival syndrome sets in. We're making progress. You can't do any better than that. Well, they don't think. Let the air mass move on. Now it's over Washington, D.C. You got the backside of that circle now. You got a 345 tailwind pushing a 100 mile an hour airplane. You have a 445 mile an hour ground speed, same airplane. Now, there's a startling difference between that and 100 mile an hour. You see, that's what the 100 mile an hour example there is what Dave Ramsey is teaching. Well, I'm saying get in the banking business and act like a banker. Now, 445 compared with 100 is startling, isn't it?
Big difference.
Yes, but it's much more startling than that because everything that you do in the financial world is compared to what everybody else is doing. what is most of the world doing?
They're flying
Flying with the headwind.
flying with headwind.
You've got the tailwind of the same denomination. It's twice the wind. That is dramatic. And the book is teaching people how to create a perpetual tailwind to everything that you do in the financial world. See, when I got through with that 13 years of paying off the banks, I had the policy loans to pay off, okay? It startled me how quickly the loans got paid off. It shocked me. I couldn't believe it, but it's true.